Have you ever looked down at the car lots and seen some cars that you thought, who would ever buy such junk? Yeah, I'm gonna share a list of some of those used vehicles that are such crap that they're totally unsellable. Let's get into it now.
Life's too short to drive boring cars.
First one on my list is what we're looking at right here. And I've been looking on the classifieds and I've stumbled across a lot of these vehicles and none of them are selling. And there's a good reason for that. What we're looking at is a Jeep, and clearly, as you can tell, it's a Grand Cherokee product here. Now, nobody's going to accuse of Jeep being the top quality products. And while some people do put value in them because sure, you can tow some weight, you have the practicality of the rear hatchback right here, a nice style, and they're putting a lot of nice detail on there, like the wheels, nice comfortable interior, sunroofs in some cases. It feels like it meets the criteria. But with all of the vehicles on the market, there's one thing that I've seen in common, and I scoured the forums and realized quickly that it's the V6 Eco Diesel under the hood of these vehicles, of the Grand Cherokees, that are the bone of a lot of contention. Nobody wants to buy them because well, the emissions, and of course as the emissions equipment starts to fail and these vehicles age and deteriorate, they become exclusively expensive to maintain. Also on top of that, in the forums I heard people talking about having to do annual pulling half of the front end of the engine apart just to service and clean all the carbon and soot out of there just to keep it running properly. Of course, the Eco Diesel system, we've heard about cracked manifold issues, potential fire, and there was recalls related to that. But this Overland right here is a Jeep product that clearly won't sell. Nobody wants it. Everybody's read the research, knows what's up. On top of that, counter that with transmission issues, electric failures every which way from Sunday, and you've got yourself a recipe for disaster. And while that might seem a practical solution, most people just know to steer way away from these Jeep Grand Cherokees with the Eco Diesel. The next one online is a vehicle that I spotted in the classifieds. What we have is a Range Rover. We're talking about a 2018 model year with about 75,000 miles on it. And it's on the classifieds because it's for sale. Who's gonna buy such a vehicle? Everybody knows Range Rovers have such a reputation for lacking reliability and massive, exclusively expensive maintenance and servicing costs. Nobody would be in their right mind to go out and buy a used one outside of warranty. That's why it's going to sit. And that's why, if you look at the calipers, they're worn out down here, and the brake discs are rusted right out, both the back as well as the fronts. Clearly, this vehicle has spent a lot of days sitting on the lot. Nobody wants it, nobody's buying it. On top of that, look what's going on. I mean, right here we have this sitting lowrider right here because the air suspension has collapsed. It's failed. And you'll see the same storyline up here on the front where the front end has collapsed. It's not a good quality, and we're talking about thousands of dollars of repair for that type of issue. Down under the hood, of course, we also have issues with that supercharged engine that you find under the hood. That's going to be a list of calamities just waiting to happen right there. You're getting O2 sensors, you're going to get direct injectors failing, you have fuel pumps failing, you have timing chain issues of certain generations of these that are catastrophically failing. You've got rear differential issues, transmission problems, electrics everywhere, and on top of it, there's body panels that I've heard of. I know somebody who actually works at a dealership like this and has told me many horror stories where they try to remove a body panel inside just to gain access to a wiring harness or a loom, and then that panel never goes back on again. Parts just snap off, break off. The cost of servicing is over $200 an hour labor rate, and of course you're always fixing something. Thousands of dollars every time you take that vehicle in for the shop, and even a basic oil service for one of these vehicles is going to cost you $1,500 out the door. Nothing is cheap, nobody wants it, and when things break, look out, you better be friends with the King and Queen of England because there's no way you can afford to fix it. Another vehicle I've stumbled across when I look in the classifieds and I see these vehicles with about 100,000 miles on them and they're, you know, about 2018, 2017, I know they're not selling. I see a lot of these sitting and they sit for a long period of time. Nobody wants to buy them. They just sit full of durability issues, reliability issues. They're stressing their engines. Now the latest and greatest Volvo XC90 vehicles like this one here often have 4-cylinder engine and they supercharge it and turbocharge it and throw a little electrification on there for good measure. Just give it a boot just for good luck, because a lot of these will not last, and a lot of people know they're far too complicated. And while they're great in their lease environment and they're great for the first couple of years, anybody seeing these on a car lot will know full well there's no way you're gonna buy this and it's gonna sit here indefinitely. It's virtually unsellable. I mean, you look at these vehicles, while they look great like this, and you get nice wheels and painted glossy finishings like this and sunroof and all the texturing and finishing you could possibly dream up and muster up. The problem with a lot of these modern Volvos, like the XC90 right here and the T6R all-wheel drive, as we notice right there, and the fancy technical issues that we're finding in here, means that nobody is looking to buy something like this. It doesn't matter how cute it looks, it doesn't matter how far Volvo's gone, people care about their money. And these vehicles are virtually unsellable in the used car market. Nobody wants them, they're junk. They're too expensive to fix, there's too much technology buried under the hood, and those engines are highly strained and a guaranteed failure waiting to happen. And here we have a series, a trifecta, or actually a quadfecta of Jaguars. Obviously we have an XE, XF, an F-Type SVR, which is a beautiful rig like that, and we have another little XE right here, and they're all great looking cars. And I've said this before, they're a lot of fun to drive, and certain cars are worth keeping and other ones not as much. I mean, there's no doubt the F-Type SVR like this is going to likely be a keeper, and because of the fun factor alone and the rarity and exclusivity, that's a keeper. But try to sell that on the used car market. This vehicle here with 72,000 miles is a beast to sell. These don't sell very well either, but more importantly, a vehicle like this, we're dealing with an older generation of Jaguar like this. It looks very classy and absolutely gorgeous. But unfortunately, who's gonna buy a car like this? It's way too much risk. The British engineering and Tata Motors got their fingers in the pie, and now they generate a car that is far less than reliable. And so we have this beautiful car. It's a Jaguar right there. It's an XF, the older generation. Yeah, you get a set of dual pipes on this, but who's actually going to buy this car? I guarantee you, this car is gonna sit here for weeks on weeks on weeks on months because of some of the issues. Coolant leaks, oil leaks, timing chain system issues, and of course, you name it, they figured out how to break it. These types of vehicles here, the Jaguar XF, while one of the most beautiful models in recent history, it's just not the durability that a lot of people want these days. It also lacks the technology and the fact that you walk on a lot and you see this vehicle, everybody will admire it, but nobody will buy it. That's like buying an old Lamborghini. Everybody loves to see it, everybody loves to go for a ride in it, but nobody really wants to own it. Well, that's the same story right here. Everybody loves to see it, but nobody really wants to buy it. So that car is virtually unsellable on the used car market, and it's a sad state because it's a gorgeous car, but the reliability challenges and the age of it mean that it will never sell. There's another one that's likely never going to sell. And while this one specifically is the SRT, that has a very exclusive niche type of desirability to it, and there might be somebody that actually buy this one. But we're actually really talking about the regular version of this vehicle. And what are we talking about here? We're dealing here with a Dodge, of course, and this is a Durango. Dodge Durango, this is the RT. This has a certain appeal because of the extra sporting experience, but take that away and look at the regular Dodge Durangos on here, and you'll realize very quickly how slowly those vehicles sell. Nobody wants them. The interior lacks quality. Sitting in the seats feel like sitting in a Glad garbage bag. The infotainment system is trash. The engines are garbage. And honestly, even brand new, the Dodge Durangos are poorly selling to the point where the day's supply is over double of what the industry average is. Nobody wants them. Nobody cares about these anymore. They're old, they're obsolete, and even considering it's a third row SUV, there's way better choices because the low level of quality and the product that we've been getting from the Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Stellantis camp means that nobody really wants these vehicles. They're going to sit and sit and sit. And while it might look appealing, even with that V8 engine in some of the more high-strung SRT versions, nobody wants these vehicles. They're not particularly reliable. The quality isn't very inspiring. And realistically, if you love sitting in a fishing tackle box, just take a look at one of the interiors on these and you'll know exactly what that's all about. The Dodge Durango, virtually unsellable. Here's another one that likely won't sell, or certainly not very well, is this Audi. It's a late model version of this SUV. Of course, you do get a heads-up display, which is great. You get the Quattro all-wheel drive system. You do get the S-Line, so it's slightly dressed up, fold-away mirrors, single access in. You get lots of great details. It's a high-quality feel to it, even with the LED tail lights and the 4 rings of despair right there. You've got a tow hitch, a receiver, and of course, it's a good looking vehicle. But the problem with these vehicles is those that buy them new want them new. And those are usually the well-heeled people who have you know, exclusivity in mind, because really the only way to go up from here is, you know, an A7, S7 or RS Q8 or Q8. Those are the premium models, and this is up there in the premium lineup. But this here looks very much like a wagon, but it's not a wagon, it's an SUV, and it gives you the third row in here. And who's buying third row SUVs? It's not the second owner, because usually these vehicles start to hit the market, and then that's where usually the less well-heeled buyers are going, looking for used luxury vehicles. I mean, how many 21-year-old people do you know out there are looking for a vehicle that looks like a minivan? Not many. Most people in that age demographic in the early 20s looking for a stylish luxury vehicle, they're looking for a two-door, maybe a fire-breathing turbocharged BMW with that B58, maybe something that feels more sporty, more compact, but nobody wants these vehicles that look like a stretched out minivan with a third row. Very few people are buying this type of vehicle. And now with a vehicle like this, outside of warranty, it's just running out of warranty now, and of course it also has, you know, 58,000 miles. You're almost rounding the clock on 100,000 kilometers. Who's going to buy that? It seems like way too much risk. It's a premium model by Audi, and because it has all the greatest tech inside and all the detail all over, you know that comes at a cost. So if parts break, wear out, maintenance costs, all very, very high. So nobody wants that, nobody needs that, and everybody knows that comes at a cost. So that's why this vehicle is going to sit and sit and sit and is virtually unsellable. Here's another vehicle that's not going to sell on the used car market. Now, what we're looking at here is the last generation. It's been restyled, and of course it's redone. It gets a new drivetrain, and that's the reason that one won't sell. This one here may be okay because it carries the latest the oldest drivetrain. This is a Volkswagen. As you can tell, it's a very large SUV, but there's been a lot of quality issues, like whistling into there. Of course, you had engine issues, naturally shuffling. You've had all kinds of problems with engines, transmission, and electrics. And of course, there you go, more electrics to keep you busy at the service shop with this Volkswagen Atlas right there. Now, this is a V6 4Motion, so that means you get all-wheel drive. It's the V6 engine under the hood, which is okay, and a lot of people want that vehicle. But did you realize they've now replaced that with a version of this? You can only get a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, which puts out 260 horsepower. And trust me, when I say I've driven one of these latest generation Volkswagens with the Turbo 4, and it feels like it's working its schwanz off just to get it moving down the road. The reality is it just has too little of engine for this size of an SUV. This thing's ginormous. Third row SUV, it's ultra wide, it's a brick. And then they go through a Turbo 4 in there. You know what's going on in Volkswagen world, right? They're actually talking about shutting down plants. They're in dire straits right now. They're looking at laying off tons of people, shutting down plants because they can't afford to stay in business anymore. And largely because they put all their money into the electrified market and realizing they'd went overboard. They've topped over the other side, and now a lot of these manufacturers are struggling with the sales of electric vehicles. And Volkswagen went just a little too far, and now they're struggling to recoup some of those losses. Unfortunately, vehicles like this are going to be proof to people, you know, with the quality issues, and of course bubbling like that right there means that people are going to struggle even wanting to get into one of these. When you think about buying one of these and the Volkswagen, the company, is in the dire straits financially, it means that your service, your parts, and of course support may be largely suffering as a result of the poor factory support. You're likely going to get yourself into a vehicle that has little future, and that's the unfortunate part with a big vehicle like this, particularly the Atlas with the Turbo 4. It's virtually unsellable. Nobody's going to want that much vehicle pushed around by a small engine supported by a company that is barely in business. And the next one is very controversial, but maybe it's not that controversial. What we have here is a Tesla. This is a Model 3, and of course it's one of the most popular vehicles that Tesla makes. But unfortunately, every time Elon turns around, he's dropping the prices on the new vehicles. And when he's doing that, it just makes it harder to sell the older used vehicles, and it makes people sell it for virtually nothing. Have you seen the market in the US for used Teslas? It's tanking. People are not selling their used Teslas. The prices are dropping like a rock. And now with BYD knocking on the doors, they've already already arched their way into Mexico, and they're trying to push their way north into US and Canada. It won't be long before that $15,000 BYD SUV is available with more reliability, more features, better styling, and for a quarter of the money than what you're getting for Teslas. So these used Teslas are hitting the market. Nobody wants them. Hertz has even dumped a lot of their models, realizing that the insurance costs are too high, battery replacement is going to be excessive, and these vehicles just are not selling on the used car market. So if you go ahead and buy yourself a used Tesla, or you buy a Tesla and you hold on to it for a significant period of time, know this: it's virtually unsellable on the used car market. And with all of that said, be sure to check out right there some of the most reliable vehicles on the market today. It's the full compilation. You're going to love it. Hope to see each and every one in the next one. We'll see you all real soon. Bye-bye.